Good morning. I'm Phil Owen with Communities for Recovery and the Targeted Response Team. Today I have my guests Emily Gray and Lisa Medina from the Texas Harm Reduction Conference. Good morning.
Good morning.
Hey there.
Hey, so can you guys give us each a little background of yourself and then a little background of the Harm Reduction Conference?
Sure. Emily, you wanna take the lead?
Sure. Yeah, I have been working in street level outreach for about 8 years now in Austin. And that's with the Austin Harm Reduction Coalition. And just last April, Lisa had this brilliant idea to have a conference surrounding harm reduction principles, and I joined on, and so together we've been working on that tirelessly for about a year now.
Great. Can you tell the audience, since some of them may not know, but what is street level delivery or services? And what might the Austin Harm Reduction Coalition do?
Sure. So we go out into the communities and offer them supplies and resources and wound care and just kind of a loving ear without judgment, and give folks what they need. And so a lot of our clients are experiencing homelessness. A lot of them don't feel comfortable talking about their substance use, and this is a place where we can come out to them to be accessible, but also meet people kind of where they're at without putting any kind of expectation on them to stop substance use or manage it, or we don't have any we don't push anything on them. We just kind of are there, and if they ask for something, we can try and provide that for them.
Great, thank you. And Lisa?
Yeah, I have been in Austin for about 12 years. I've been working in harm reduction for about 10. I do I do several different things. Emily and I, like she said, we have been working tirelessly on this conference since last year, and it's a volunteer gig for Emily and I and all of our planning committee members. It's a passion project. This is something we truly believe in, that matches our personal values. So in addition to the conference and all of that work, I'm also in private practice. I'm an LCDC, I am trained in EMDR, I have my master's in counseling, so I have a private practice where I see adults, and I focus on substance use disorders, and trauma. I also volunteer on the van for the Austin Harm Reduction Coalition. We do amazing work. I feel privileged to join Emily when we're on shift and be in the communities and on the street and right there where people are. Like she said, we don't ask much of people. We go to them and we provide compassion and love and services. I also am a volunteer board member for the Texas Harm Reduction Alliance. And that's a newer position for me. Texas Harm Reduction Alliance is newer in our Austin landscape. They've been around about a year, and they are doing amazing work, both on a street level outreach. They have a community drop-in center, but they're also working on policy and advocacy statewide. They're building an actual alliance of all of as many possible outreach services and harm reduction service providers across the state of Texas. And we're trying to coordinate our efforts and create communication methods and make sure that the furthest reaches in our Texas community are able to get services they need, like, unused syringes and harm reduction materials and options for treatment should people want them, peer recovery coaching, that kind of thing. So that's a little bit of everything.
Right.
And Narcan.
Oh, and Narcan.
A big piece of what we do.
Narcan being the opioid overdose reversal drug.
Yes.
Yeah, so we give that to folks and train folks on how to use it. We don't want people to have it and then, you know, in a pinch, not be comfortable using it. So we also provide training and answer questions about it, and really want to get it out into the hands of people who need it, and have them be confident that they're going to save a life with it.
Yeah. Well, I'm definitely a proponent of harm reduction in every way, and I'm so appreciative to have so many pioneers in harm reduction in Austin. I know we're here mostly to talk about the conference, but what I want to do is back up for a second and ask you guys to explain to our audience maybe a brief definition of what harm reduction, or an example of what harm reduction can be, or maybe a definition and an example.
Sure. Emily, do you want to start and I'll...
I mean, certainly examples of harm reduction would be access to healthcare, loving healthcare. You know, a lot of my clients have had bad experiences with, you know, medical community, the police community. You know, they've had bad experiences because of a misunderstanding between, you know, these organizations and these agencies and what it's like to be somebody who uses substances. So really kind of closing in that gap a little bit and helping folks understand each other, but also advocate for themselves in these scenarios when maybe a medical provider isn't being compassionate to their circumstances. So that's a good example of harm reduction. I had another one, but it's left.
When I think of harm reduction, I think about it from the bigger picture perspective. Emily's talking about direct services, which are so important, invaluable services. But when I zoom out and think about the bigger picture, it's a social justice movement created by people who use substances for people who use substances. And so it's a movement to connect people with needed services, like Emily was saying, but also the advocacy piece. We advocate at the community level, at the political level, statewide level, federal level. We're advocating for basic human rights for people who use substances. And unfortunately, in our American culture and many other cultures, we have stigmatized people who use substances. We've othered them, right? We have put them in the fringes of our society and really create barriers for them accessing basic human rights like housing and psychiatric care and medical care and substance use services, because, you know, old models say there's only one right way to deal with substances, and harm reduction says there any way is okay. The person is the expert of their own life, and we really try to embody autonomy and client choice, not provider agenda. And
Yes.
so that's a little bit of a nuanced change in harm reduction from maybe traditional treatment services. I am not the expert of someone else's life. They are the expert of their life. And harm reduction really allows me personally as a provider to love someone exactly where they are. I don't need anything from them. I don't want anything for them other than the connection and the creation of safety, so then they have the voice to ask for what they need. And I say this word often, and I truly mean it. Like, that's where for us magic happens, right? We see a person really open up when we love them, when we tell them they're safe, when we ask them what they need. And harm reduction really embodies that along a continuum of choices, from continued use to safer use to moderated use and abstinence. Harm reduction includes the choice of abstinence. And many harm reduction supporters are in fact choosing abstinence for themselves, even if they were previous substance users.
Well, I can tell you as a peer recovery coach, and I completely identify with the person-driven, strength-based approach. It is how our job works, and it couldn't work without it. As a person with lived experience, I can tell you my little example that I'll give is when I made a decision to stop IV drug use. I truly believe that's why I'm alive today. is because I kept using substances, but using IV by way of IV drug use, using needles was killing me. It was killing me. And I truly believe, like I say, at the time I didn't know that was harm reduction. Whatever blessed me, graced me, allowed me to make that decision for myself, I believe has kept me alive. So I totally believe, you know, it's a step-by-step process, just like any other process.
Yeah.
And one person's steps aren't going to be the same distance as another person's steps. And we have to appreciate that and work with that. I totally believe that. So I'm so glad to have you guys on the show. I want to talk about the conference a little bit. I was really excited for this conference coming up. So it's not canceled, it's just postponed. So you guys can, when did y'all make the decision? When is it postponed to? Where's it going to take place at? And then the big thing is, what can we expect to see at the conference? What are we going to get to enjoy?
Great question.
A little bit about I guess the postponement. So we decided maybe about 3 or 4 weeks ago to postpone, but it was kind of a process where we had to let our sponsors know and our planning committee know, and so we just kind of revealed it about a week and a half ago that we were going to postpone. It was something that we have worked it's the hardest I've ever worked on anything. It's the coolest thing I've ever done, and we're still gonna have it. I'm so excited for it. We just, you know, things are a little bit batty right now in a way that we can't really nail down a new date yet.
Okay.
But we do want people to stay tuned and follow us and like us and all that good stuff so that they can know as soon as we know that we have a new date.
Great. Well, when you guys get a new date, we'll have to have you back on and really get the word out there. So, you know, I was just thinking another example of harm reduction, I think would be fair to say that social distancing is harm reduction. To understand it in our daily life and let family members and friends and allies to understand too, would it be fair to say that social distancing is the harm reduction we see in place right now?
I love that connection, because in harm reduction, for people who are choosing change, including safety, we talk about mitigating risk, right? Mitigating risk. And so, yeah, social distancing is a way to mitigate risk of getting COVID-19, the virus, and, you know, the wearing the mask and eye protection and gloves and washing our hands. Those are all ways that we have personal autonomy to mitigate the risk around this virus right now. And so it is an example of what of harm reduction. Absolutely.
Great. Well, can you guys let us know what's going to go on at the conference? What do you guys have planned?
Oh, Phil. Okay. So I get so super excited about this conference because, like Emily said, we've worked so hard, and not just Emily and I. We have 30 dedicated volunteers that have given their time. We're all professionals that have multiple jobs, and every single person has poured all their extra time and energy into these efforts. And what I really got to see, Phil, get created over the last year is these volunteers that we have, our lovely colleagues. They have come to the table with ideas above and beyond what we could have created on our own, Emily and I. We had the idea of, like, we know cool speakers, we have important topics, we want to bring people together, let's have that day. But our committee really saw something beyond that. And so in addition to our amazing conference agenda and the topics we have lined up for the day, which we can talk about in a minute, we also have this great extra programming happening around the day of learning. We are in connection with Lighter Loads, which is a nonprofit that has a mobile shower and laundry service. And so we have planned to have Lighter Loads on property, so folks who are homeless can come shower before the conference, leave their laundry, have their laundry done for them while they're in the conference, learning, connecting, you know, being loved, and they get their laundry taken care of while they're there. We were planning to have a healing arts area where we had massage therapists, acu-detox, meditation, quiet space. We plan to have recovery meetings happening throughout the day. We are partnering with the CARE program to have on-site HIV testing happening. We are partnering with ECHO to have on-site housing assessments happening for our Travis County folks. We are going to work with AHRC to have the syringe service programs, program services on site. And so we have a lot of wonderful events around the day of what we call, a typical conference. We really wanted to make it a robust, kind of non-traditional conference experience. And that was part of where we decided to have it. That decision lined up where, Emily, I think we get to say this, we still plan on having it at AFS Cinema.
Okay.
AFS Cinema off of 290 and 35, very north centrally located off a highway near the Greyhound bus station. Emily, do you want to add anything to the day of what the conference was going to look like?
Sure, yeah. So we didn't do just like a simple thing. We did a track system so that there's like 3 different things that registrants can choose to do at any time. This is besides all the ancillary stuff that Lisa said. So the committee group or the planning committee voted on topics, and then we populated panels based on the topics that were considered most needed or they were most excited about. So, there is going to be a panel on drug users unions. There's going to be harm reduction 101. There's going to be policy stuff, housing stuff. So really, anybody can learn something, no matter if they're just a community person, an advocate, an activist, somebody that works in street outreach, somebody that's a clinician. There's just so much learning that
Right.
is going to be done. I also, one of our values as a group was to stay true to the tenet of nothing about us without us.
Right.
We scholarshiped 1/3 of the registrations for folks with active or lived experience with incarceration, with substance use, with living with HIV, we have a whole list of people that don't have to pay anything. So that is something that is still going to hold true for our next date. We also plan on providing continuing education units for folks that are clinicians, and so that's something that we were working really hard on to be sure that people could get credit for the time that they spent with us that day.
That's great. Yeah, it's going to be action-packed. One day, I this will probably be the first and only one-day conference you guys have. I'm sure you realize that. I can't imagine trying to pack all that in.
We were excited. We kind of went off.
Yeah, no,
we were a little.
We didn't have anybody to tell us no yet.
No, that's great. Over the top. That's the way to do it for sure. And it's interesting because when we talk about harm reduction, we talk about recovery. It really, harm reduction to me has always been about being person-centered. As a recovery coach, we talk about being person-centered. And that means that I'm going to focus on not what I want a person to do, but what they want to do for themselves. And, I just think that really going to broaden everybody's vision of what recovery can look like. I think for a lot of people, recovery has traditionally looked like a 12-step program, which can be limiting for others. And quite honestly, can be somewhat resistant for some people to want to be involved in those programs for whatever reasons. But I think it's great that we're getting the word out there about harm reduction. I think it's much more of a wellness model, which I think will even be in the future talking more about recovery in terms of wellness and not just substance use recovery. You mentioned about people coming out of um, with lived experience with incarceration. For me, I've worked with a peer that his goals were based around not wanting to go back to jail, but continuing to want to smoke weed or whatever his substances were at the time. He just wanted to change his behaviors around going back to prison. And it was great. And he hasn't gone back. I've been working with the guy for over 3 years now. And it's amazing what we can see take shape when we allow somebody to shape their own destiny, you know, and not
Isn't it wonderful? It's like, so I always use that word magic. We literally get to see someone grow into their own empowered voice and make good choices for themselves based on their own value system
right.
and their own experiences. And it's really beautiful to watch.
It's awesome. I'm going to pull up the website real quick just so people can see the website. And if you guys have anything else you want to throw in about the conference, now would be the time.
I was gonna maybe hopefully take some time to make some asks of some of the folks that are listening. I figure that it's worth asking. So for the conference, my ask is really just to follow us, email us if you want to be part of the planning, if you have grant writing experience or just want to be part of the committee. We'd certainly love to hear from you. For, you know, actual individual impact harm reduction work, I'd say that the outreach workers at my organization could certainly use some PPE, protective equipment for, you know, so that we can continue providing services as much as we can. We also had our main outreach vehicle, very beloved vehicle that we'd had for many years, break down. So any connections to outreach vehicles or people that could outfit an existing vehicle certainly could email us at the conference email, and I'll get that.
Yeah. You know, I think it would be great to start a GoFundMe for that van. If I remember right, I think you guys are using the same van that you started with or something close to that. If I remember.
Certainly been as long as I've been with the organization, but it is a 1995 model, and we've been around since at least that long. So it does sound that the time does match up to where
right.
we.
So yeah, that would be a great thing to rally together to get the Austin Harm Reduction Coalition a new van. You guys are business as usual right now. Is that correct?
I think that you should follow the Facebook. We have dialed back our outreach just a little because we are out of our own vehicles. So yeah, I would say follow us on Facebook for information about, because that's changing all the time with the
Sure.
pandemic.
So that's Austin Harm Reduction Coalition on Facebook.
That's right. Yes.
Okay.
Message us through there or email the conference, and I'll get both of those. Lisa might have some asks as well. I'm not sure.
Great. So the Harm Reduction Conference is texasharmreductionconference.org.
Yes.
We have the website pulled up right here. Stay tuned for an announcement for a date in the future. And we will try to have you guys back on here to talk about that and spread the word, and follow the Austin Harm Reduction Coalition on Facebook to stay up with them currently. I just have one more question for you guys.
Oh wait, I think Lisa might have connected with some community people.
Yeah, Phil, just to add, sorry
Perfect.
to interrupt, just to add to Emily's community ask, the Texas Harm Reduction Alliance is working hard with our local folks in the legal system and the medical care system we have in Austin. They are doing a call to action for decarceration under COVID-19. And so for anyone interested in rallying around that call to action to decarcerate folks who cannot be safely housed in our jail system while COVID-19 is happening, we don't have any way to keep those folks safe. And so there is a call to action happening. And so anyone interested can go to the Texas Harm Reduction Alliance website or Facebook page to find out more about the efforts being made for those folks, or folks who are incarcerated for nonviolent offenses, for low-level misdemeanor substance possession offenses, etc. So there's efforts being made there that I think are important to talk about. Yep, there's the THRA website. Thank you for showing that, Phil. So yes, you can reach out to those folks as well to see if you have any interest in that call to action here locally.
So let's all educate ourselves about harm reduction. Let's all connect to our local harm reduction organizations. We've got the Texas Harm Reduction Conference that is postponed, but we'll be making a new date. We have the Austin Harm Reduction Coalition that you can follow on Facebook to stay up with current affairs. We can also support harm reduction through the Texas Harm Reduction Alliance, which is harmreductiontx.org, and support getting people out of jail and prisons right now that are at risk of COVID-19. So please go to the website and support this. It's a very valuable, all these are valuable tools to use. And it's a very important message to get out there, and certainly current with amidst our current situation. So now I'll ask you my final question. If you could create a flavor of ice cream, what would it be?
Man, Phil, that's tough.
So it would have a coffee component, York peppermint patty component, but I think the base would be Sausalito, which is like a Pepperidge Farm cookie that they even have at gas stations, and it's not healthy. None of it's healthy, but that's okay. They don't make kale ice cream for a reason.
That's
Emily, that was a great answer. Phil, I don't think I can follow up after that amazingly creative answer. I'm like thinking mint and sherbet. Like Emily's definitely the more creative one.
I'm a huge sherbet fan. My mom was big on sherbet, so I love them. So that's mint added in there. That's perfect. Well, thank you guys so much for being on. Harm reduction is a focus that everybody needs to be a part of, and we look forward to seeing you guys in the future and announcing the new date. Please support the Austin Harm Reduction Coalition by following them on Facebook, the Texas Harm Reduction Alliance by going to their website, and you guys have a great day. Thanks for tuning in.
Thank you, Phil.